that to a perspective of understanding. This is where I think the question of the left of the labor movement is critical. It comes up with an understanding that this crisis is not just going to slowly fade away and linger until we get better, and things will go back to the way they used to be, and they'll, living standards will go, and they'll restore some of these cuts and so on. It's not going to be like that. The Greek debt crisis and the financial reverberations of that worldwide, in this country and elsewhere, shows the fact that while the economy may be recovering, it's quite fragile. It could very well be tipped backward by another financial shock. And in any case, the solution that capitalists have is for workers to be put on starvation rations. You're going to have to do with less. You're going to have to do without adequate schooling. You're going to have to do without a decent retirement. You're going to have to do without decent welfare services for those of you who might lose your job. But all that's on the chopping block. And the left has a responsibility and a role is to bring that analysis and bring that point of view into the labor movement. Those of us who are in unions can do it within our own unions. Those of us who aren't can actually play that role through organizing and writing and supporting the struggles that do take place. Because until we can knit together those kinds of relationships, we're not going to put together the movement with the kind of vision that can see past the blinkers of the union bureaucracy and put together a different version of unionism based on social activism and militancy and union democracy. Thanks.
Can you step over to the side so we can keep the camera on? That's fine.
That's a very interesting talk, and I think one of the things that you pointed out, I think, is that the larger unions, or implied anyway, the larger unions are really based on a very old-fashioned model, and I think part of that is that a lot of the successes in the past were based on mass organising of large, heavy industrial workplaces, and of course only about 1/5 of the workforce now are employed in those kind of industries, and the vast majority in service work sector, which is often much more difficult to organise because you're talking about small shops and it's hard work, as the SEU, for all its faults, has actually found out. And so I think the unions, the union organisations and bureaucracies are going to have to sort that out, because I think having a top-down bureaucracy works even more, it kind of makes a sense if you've got these large workforces, because there are less levels of organisation there. But when you're talking about having to go around and organise individual small shops, then you've got to get back to that kind of grassroots organisation and involvement. And the other thing is, I think that's something that Dan Clausen, for example, has talked about, how you need to actually get unions to take notice of small local initiatives where people want to organise and are looking around for some kind of union support and who may not have been involved as union members in the past. And also just the fact that it's pretty obvious that incremental increases in union membership haven't really worked and never have. When there have been upsurges, they've always been very fast in response to particular historical circumstances, like the 8-hour-day movement, where people were just joining thousands every day to this, and okay, it dropped back very quickly, but I think this kind of a little bit here and there has never really worked in terms of building strong unions.
Sorry, I'm a little hoarse. Anyways, I've been a carpenter, union carpenter since '76. I was active in the rank and file movement, which is still sort of around. Do you have any information about building trades around the country? I have some, if you don't, but I really want to learn stuff. Are you ready to slow down? Okay. I think we'll say a couple of things. First of all, the building rank and file group I was involved in, I was the only one really on the left. And it was started by people who were a very disparate group. One guy was very important, and it was came out of NRA, National Rifle Association, organizing. Some of the guys involved were like third generation carpenters, all white. There was one kid came out of the active in Seattle in the global trade movement. He went on to other stuff. He was sort of like the NRA guys, our guys said he was like a farm dog and chased after the next tail light. So he went on to other leftist groups. It was a very disparate group, and I guess I'm assuming most people here are leftists. I've been leftist since 62 or something. Anyways, in dealing with left groups going and talking to labor, I suggest you just listen for a long time. I think you'll find a lot in my confound group. Carpenters went through many transformations you talked about. We have regional councils which replaced the locals. We still have locals, but they're totally meaningless. Business agents run it totally. They choose themselves. The Chicago Regional Council is made up of business agents. They choose their own membership. Never voted on a contract. But nonetheless, bumping up in terms of years is really true amongst the guys. There's a lot of talk, a lot of class consciousness just forming, They have very, I guess the word is dialectic viewpoints. On the one hand, they have a bourgeois ideology. Anyone can make it. Some guys talk about the stock market, some of them try. At the same time, they feel a basic solidarity with other people. There's a lot of talk right now in Chicago, I don't know if you know anything about it, about givebacks. A couple other regions of the country that I know at least have taken big pay cuts for the carpenters. There's talk in Chicago. Quad City Council, which is part of the Chicago Regional Council, they just took a big pay cut, the carpenters there. Got the operators even pretty pissed at us because they're getting from everybody else. The contract comes up in June, we can't find anything about what's going on. The job steward is very sympathetic to the rank and file point of view. Only guy for 25 years. He can't find out anything about the contract. They don't talk about it, so I assume from that they're not going to show any militancy because they're not organizing people. So anything you might know about what's going on, it's mostly the rumor stage. Talk to the operators union because of the TAR funds pushing for the roads and stuff. They feel like they can hold out. Under the unions aren't talking to anybody at all. So I'd like to know anything you've heard or anything else in the room.
You gonna respond?
Can we respond now?
Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. You can respond to every question or comment.
Oh, I'm happy to wait.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
On the question of the, on the labor movement, how it's changed in smaller shops, I think that that's an important question because basically what we've had in the changes of capitalism through the growth of finance is that production elements can be broken out and still be disciplined along the lines of common financing and things like the International Standards Organization, which basically puts everybody on the same playing field in terms of being interoperable with different kinds of production. So it's possible to break down, what the academics would tend to call the Fordist mode of production, with a big concentration, but that still exists. So you still, because capital is more consolidated at the top, it can be broken down more easily in terms of its component parts and mixed and matched. And the way to tackle that for labor has proven difficult for the reasons you suggested. To take the sympathetic point of view, as somebody put it, who's the Tom Gagan, the labor lawyer, put it, said, look, basically to be a shop steward in this country, in the union, you have to become a kind of a lay lawyer. You have to become a mini lawyer to learn all these things, to learn the apparatus. You move up the chain, you have business agents who have to negotiate again and again slightly different contracts with different entities in many cases. And then again, the question of organizing comes in. Well, who's going to pay for that organizing? Say we get them organized, are we going to have to pay for that same apparatus, the same kind of structure yet again? So you'll find that a lot of unions which are looking around to organize will say, that shop only has 200 people. I don't think it's really worth our effort. Because their mentality is that they have to keep putting replicating this bureaucratic machine around and administer it for the workers, when in fact a different model of organization, of worker self-organization running their own shops, could emerge. And I think the best example of that was the big